welcome to another episode of Between the Pipes with Archie from All Everything Entertainment.
What's up, everybody? We are back for another episode of Between the Pipes, and the last one marking the end of the season, just from a NHL playoff standpoint. Archie here again with my boy, Daniel.
Hey.
How goes it?
It's going good. Just got home. Got ready for this.
Right on.
Ready?
Yeah, you got your drink ready? Good stuff.
Yeah.
So we're episode 10, the Tampa Bay Lightning, Stanley Cup champions. Congratulations to them on a very successful run. And of course, just a reminder, I had chosen the Lightning to win the Cup, of course, after my several other failed picks, and you chose the Stars.
My second pick.
Yeah, that was your second pick. I think the Lightning was my third or fourth, but I had last chosen them to win in 7, so I was still a little bit off. But just a quick, before we kind of break things down, just share this little picture in honor of the Tampa Bay Lightning. A beautiful picture there of a crowdless, empty arena at Edmonton with Steven Stamkos raising the cup. They actually said, or he said, that he actually got dressed in full gear 3 minutes before the game ended, so that he could get on the ice and participate in the on-ice celebrations with the team. So congratulations again to the Tampa Bay Lightning for a deserved victory. Before we get into that, I do want to make note of Joe Pavelski. He had a hell of a run for the Dallas Stars this season in the playoffs, and actually ended up becoming I believe he's the sole owner of most playoff goals ever scored by an American-born player, and he also led the Dallas Stars in that category. Now, I'm not sure what the actual number is and who he surpassed, but hell of a record, man, and I think he's still got a few years left in him. I mean, I thought in San Jose his career was kind of on the downward slope, but he definitely had a great resurrection in Dallas this year and proved to be a veteran leader in the playoffs for them.
Definitely agree. And then sorry for my baby crying. He's still crying about the Flyers losing to the Islanders in Game 7. So
no worries.
But I thought the Stars were going to get it done for Pavelski, but then they fell short. But they exceeded expectations from this year. So
yeah, I mean, I don't think too many people saw Dallas going to the finals in the West. I sure definitely did not, considering I had called Colorado to win the Cup. I definitely didn't think Dallas would be in the finals, but it was a hell of a finals. Great series they gave us, considering all the other changes and adjustments they had to make thanks to COVID. But yeah, it was still an awesome playoffs. We'll get into the interesting twist on the Stanley Cup parade this year. Not your typical parade in the streets. Started off with a team returning to the airport, and of course, Stamkos coming off the plane with the cup hoisted over his head. At first, I was very happy and proud of how they handled the whole thing, thinking, social distancing, great way to do it. But things got a little interesting with this parade. So the first thing I'd like to note, Patrick Maroon, back-to-back Stanley Cup victories for him with St. Louis and this year with Tampa Bay. Partied hard. And I don't know if you saw the picture of him on the boat where it appears he wet himself. And a lot of people are saying that he may have actually had a bit of an accident with all the drinking he'd been doing while celebrating during the victory parade, I guess. Some might argue that it was sweat, but it was a very interesting area. And it looked like he just had a lot of fun on that boat.
I end up picturing him in a Killhorn with his raised jersey on, and then the championship belt on there, going crazy.
The belt was a classic.
They definitely had a time of their life on those boats. And then one thing I thought was cool was the fact that they passed the cup from boat to boat.
Yeah.
So kind of like with the actual parade where they had the cars go by.
Mhm.
So this was a cool twist so that they could actually pass it off to each person.
Yeah, no, it was pretty neat.
Yeah.
And
Which I
then Patrick Maroon's speech, again, hilarious. He was hammered by that point, shirtless on stage, questioning why he was even up there giving a speech, suggesting other players should be in his place. But it was awesome. Just goes to show these guys are, after the amount of time they spent in hotels locked up, just a bunch of dudes playing hockey and doing their thing away from their families. It was good to see them all back home and being able to have fun and reunite with their loved ones. But yeah, kudos to Patrick Maroon for having a hell of a time celebrating that cup victory, and I'm sure he's still going. So where things got a little interesting was that afterwards, they lined fans up to all drink out of the cup. Blows my mind. So much for social distancing, and there are pictures and videos all over social media of people taking their sips out of the cup, and it wasn't one of those where they kind of pour the cup from a distance. It was straight on, lips on cup, just everybody. It was an absolute disaster. I'm not sure how I feel about that, man. Like a bit much.
Yeah, I get it. Like they was happy, they were secluded for what was it, 2 months,
Yep.
and then they get out and then they won. It's like a full of emotion just coming out because of being basically locked away.
Yeah.
And then just let it all out, and then like for the most part, for most of it, it was okay. But then you get to that part, I get where people are crazy, and then
Yeah.
I didn't see the full thing there. Like I've heard about it.
Mhm.
It was a little much. Definitely a little much. But I can see why, because they're celebrating. They got carried away.
I think it's just the fact that Florida's already in a horrific state with the whole COVID thing. So
yeah,
I guess they just figured, why not keep it going? I don't know. But that was interesting. When I saw those videos surfacing, I thought somebody's going to be frowning on that up in the NHL offices after all the work they did to prevent things from happening.
yeah.
Another interesting thing, I'm not sure if you caught this, Damian Cox, who's a reporter, came out and basically said it was not as difficult to win a cup when there's no road games, indicating there's no travel. Says, let's not compare bubble hockey to the real thing. How do you feel about his comments there?
To a point, I agree, because you don't get the fan interaction. That always helps the home team.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I don't like how he's trying to take away from the fact that they won it.
Exactly.
They still have to play and win the game. They just don't have that little extra advantage of winning. And then they still finished the same seed. Well, coming in before they did like the round robin, they were the 2 seed.
Mhm.
I think they were still the 2 seed when the playoffs actually started. So that they would have been a home team, which would have been an advantage on them anyway.
Yeah, and I mean they won the President's Trophy and then went on to win the cup. So I mean it was not like it was a fluke for them to pull this off by any means.
So it was an advantage for the other teams that there wasn't home games compared to them.
Essentially, yeah, because otherwise they'd be playing on the road more often. You're right, absolutely.
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought of that. So in response to Damian Cox, Barclay Goodrow from the Lightning says, you try going through what we went through, not seeing our families for months, no home advantage for either team, which, as you just mentioned, and ended it with, but hey, say what you want. So he's completely discrediting what Damian Cox said, and rightfully so. I don't think Damian Cox made the right remarks with regards to all this. I mean, I get what he's trying to say. It's a little different. No crowd pressure, no home ice advantage when it comes to the away crowd. But Tampa didn't look like anything would have phased them this year. So I'm not sure it would have made a much of a difference. If anything, they would have fed off their energy as well with all the home games. So could have gone either way. But I don't think it's something he should have said, especially right now, right after they win, to come out and say, let's not compare the two. Other big topic of discussion, Steven Stamkos. So we saw he made that very, very brief return, scored a goal in that one game, did his thing, played 5 shifts, just under 3 minutes of play. So they kind of opened up discussion on what happened with him. And turns out he had the sports hernia procedure done prior to the pause as a result of COVID. And then he fully recovered, but sustained a compensation injury during phase 2. They said he was completely participating in phase 2. At which point this aggravation, if you want to call it, happened. But they do expect him to be fully ready for the upcoming season. What do you think? You think he'll be back ready to go for game 1 in the next season?
Yeah, because I figure that they won't start until December, January. I assume, which gives them a few months to recuperate on top of this.
Mhm.
They're going to start hockey operations in a couple weeks was the talks. And then I believe if you give him a couple months just to let his wounds heal, he'll be ready. If not, maybe he'll be ready to start skating by the time that the season starts. And then he just takes his time with skating, with doing all the day-to-day practices, and then maybe he'll be ready maybe 10 games in, which still isn't that bad.
Yeah.
But
I think it was good to see him. It was good to see him in the playoffs to make his rounds and be able to be on that on the ice with the team to be there, participate, and hey, man, that goal he scored was big. I think it was an emotional and confidence booster for the whole team. So I think it turned out to be a really good decision. He didn't hurt himself. I think he knew his limits, and I don't think he played beyond them.
No, and then it was a nice thing for him, so you can actually say that at least I contributed to the Stanley Cup team. I scored that goal, even though he was only in there for a few minutes. He still gave something to this team, which for him being the captain is big.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So now we know the next big date when it comes to the season. Kind of the gap between both is free agency. That begins next Friday, October 9th. Again, there's been so many rumors, so much talk about players being moved from one team to another. A lot of players have no idea where they might end up next season. It'll be interesting to see who stays, who goes, and how well other teams improve when it comes to signing free agents. And then at some point between next Friday and the start of next season, shedding enough salary to be within cap regulations. So we'll see a lot of teams probably picking up whatever they can because you're allowed to be over, and then shedding that salary as needed, hopefully not getting stuck with cap troubles. So a little about next season. I did some digging today to try to find out as much as I could. And some of the things I found was that they're looking into having 4 to 6 bubble cities in various cities, preferably where Gary Bettman says he'd like to have fans in attendance for those cities that they end up going with. He says there should be at least one in Canada. I would assume probably Edmonton, as Toronto's numbers for COVID are back on the rise. At least even as a province in Ontario, we've seen our highest numbers today versus at any point during this whole thing. So I can see Edmonton being the bubble city chosen for this, especially because they're also going to be hosting the World Juniors just prior to the NHL season reconvening. And then they're talking about 2-week rotations followed by 1 week at home, which is going to be considered their family time, and then rotating back out for 2 weeks. As a result, each team would play approximately 12 games a month, which he says is completely doable given the limited amount of travel between the games, as their only travel would be bubble city home, next bubble city back home. So it'll be an interesting rotation, and I think it'll be something a lot more doable, and I think the players would be a lot more welcoming to this rather than asking them to seclude themselves to the bubble life for an entire season, which I don't think would have ever happened.
Hence another reason why Seattle pushed their operations back a year, because you don't want an expansion franchise having to do that when they want to get their fan base started. They want to get that arena, get that the fan base increase, get everything going like Vegas got to. So moving it back a year was a perfect choice considering that. because hopefully by then everything will be back to normal, whatever normal is at that time.
Yeah, exactly. So in addition to that, when you look at upcoming season, we have some trades that have already happened. So we've gone through some in the previous episode, so I'll just pick up where we left off. So there's been a couple more. Another Stahl brother traded. Mark Stahl this time traded to Detroit from the Rangers, along with a 2021 second-round pick for future considerations. A couple days later, Chicago picked up Brandon Peary from Vegas in exchange for Dylan Sakura. And then just today, Ottawa picked up Joshua Brown in exchange for a 2020 fourth-round pick to Florida. This is a huge pickup for Ottawa. Joshua Brown is a fighter. Like he's a goon, one of the very few left in the NHL. And just if you watch some of the highlights of some of the fights he's had, it makes you wonder what Ottawa's preparing for. I think they're looking to protect their young assets that they're about to pick up, as well as some of the ones they already have. Having 2 picks in this first round, more likely that they may very well be NHL-ready picks. It'll be interesting to see how they use Joshua Brown to help protect these guys and keep the other teams' enforcers away from them. That's confirmed trades so far. We do have a ton of other news and headlines. I don't know if you've heard anything. There's been ups and downs with regards to Patrick Laine. At first, they said he was on the go. Then they said he was staying put. And now, about 3 hours ago, as I was telling you earlier, Winnipeg is saying he could very well be traded. And they're looking to reshape the roster for the future. Kevin Cheveldayoff has not shied away from suggesting that if it means moving Patrick Laine, they will do it.
Yeah, there's a couple of things in the news right now. Of course, Stars are trying to re-sign Khudobin. That's Gimme after his performance. The Leafs ink Malgin to a 1-year extension.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure you know about that. Let's see. Jets bring back Broussard to a 1-year deal. I guess he was the backup netminder on that team. You got the Kings fire their mascot actor after a sexual harassment lawsuit.
Yeah, that's a bad one.
Which isn't good publicity with them.
Well, it's crazy because mascots are always hugging kids and taking pictures with kids. And like this is going to change a lot of how I think mascots are going to interact with fans moving forward.
Yeah, the Hurricanes and Svechnikov are discussing an extension right now for him. And other than that, the only other things are the Blue Jackets are shopping both goalkeepers right now.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Ekman Lawson is willing to approve a trade to the Canucks or the Bruins. The Predators are shopping their centers. They said they're open to trading any of their centers. And the Oilers and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins are discussing a long-term extension.
Very nice. And of course, we all know Henrik Lundqvist bought out by the New York Rangers. I'm a little upset about this. I understand the reasoning behind it, and I understand they've got 2 amazing, solid goalies for years to come. Now, where I feel that Lundqvist was slighted here is that the guy doesn't even get to play his final hurrah as a New York Ranger. He's dedicated his entire career to the Rangers, and you don't even give him a nice send-off. You're just going to buy him out. The least they could have done was try to figure out a way to let him play the first game of the season even, to have his final goodbye. I think this is a pretty crappy move on their part.
Well, not to be a dick, but I thought the Verna send-off was, even though he didn't play for, was it a month, and they made the playoffs without him, they allowed him to start the first couple games of the playoffs.
Fair enough.
When their 2, Shesterkin and Gergiev, were on a hot streak playing at the time, and they still brought him back and let him start the playoff games.
Fair enough. I just feel like without the fans, it was a little different. He didn't get a proper send-off.
Well, there's probably not going to be fans anyway, to the point where he'll be able to have the that proper send off. So I think at least that they let him play the playoff games, even though I thought they should have started somebody else.
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't think he deserved it, but if that's his send off, then I think it was proper to at least let him play the playoff game for them.
Yeah, I can see that.
They made it. So
I can see that. So now, in addition to, I don't think he's done. I feel like he'll go somewhere. Now I'm seeing. I was looking up earlier stuff today, and Matt Murray or Henrik Lundqvist are on Calgary's radar. Looks like they're trying to get their hands on one of them, obviously, as a goalie for them. Now, with Calgary, either one would make sense as a veteran presence. And it'll be interesting because there's a few teams that have their eyes on Murray. I know also on Lundqvist, the Devils were looking at Lundqvist in hopes to go there as a backup as well. I don't think he's going to get a starting job anywhere. In addition to goalies, Toronto's also looking at Matt Murray and apparently Thatcher Demko, which is interesting because the Canucks are looking to re-sign Markstrom, which may allow Demko to be an available option for teams to pick up. So it'll be interesting if the Leafs went that route. I'd prefer if they went with Matt Murray. I'm not sure how solid Demko is going to be. He had a great playoff run, but sometimes that's just a very short-lived and short-term thing. In addition to goalies, Colorado and San Jose have both expressed interest in Braden Holtby's services, who becomes a free agent this summer, or not summer, but as of Friday. He's going to probably be one of the higher paid goalies out there. So a team like either Colorado or San Jose could probably afford to make that happen.
I think it's going to be San Jose because with how Varlamov did for Colorado, and he did get hurt, but he played well for him. And I think they would be smart to stick with him over signing like Braden Holtby to a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
With how young of the team that is, and they still haven't signed some of their core young players. So it would be better to sign those core young players and then stick with Varlamov at goalie.
Yeah. And then that was pretty much it from player availability and some of the bigger rumors, I guess you could call it, for the week. Talk about Vegas. They unveiled their third jersey today, which I like. It's a really nice design. Before we talk about it, I'm just going to share the interesting video to unveil the jersey. We're going to play this without sound so we don't get arrested by the YouTube police. So have a look at this, and we'll talk about it as soon as it's over. So I guess we could talk about it as we're seeing this. So they're in Vegas doing a whole cityscape thing, going through the city, your typical Vegas scenery. And then it gets interesting. So we'll just pause here and oh, look, it's Wayne Newton, who still looks the same as he did forever. Stretched out face and all. Doing a little bit right now, singing a really tacky song, a typical Welcome to Las Vegas parody. He's got his little Vegas Knights pin on. And then, as he's singing, there's a cameo appearance by none other than, you'll see in a minute. I don't want to spoil it. Yeah. His mic stops working, and boom. It's Bill John. Very random appearance. And they laugh it off. They basically say, hey, what's going on here? And then Wayne Newton suggests that they need something to help them along here. And this happens. Boom. There they are. The Golden Knights, third jerseys, very sharp-looking jerseys. At first, when I saw them, I thought it was very much similar to the Nashville Predators gold-colored jersey.
I was thinking the same thing.
But now, after seeing this video, there's quite a bit of sparkle to the gold in these jerseys. Very interesting design. So these are going to be their third jerseys. in the upcoming season. So they had their, I like their dark jerseys. Their home jerseys are pretty nice too. So now they've got this golden jersey to go along with the Golden Knights name, I guess you can call it. Yeah, nice jerseys. I'm not sure how I feel about the super sparkly gold in them. I think I would have rather liked them to be just a plain, simple, kind of like the Nashville Predators, but I guess it's Vegas and they had to be different. What do you think of these ones?
I actually don't mind them. Like if they were like one of like their what it's supposed to be like not a retro one, but like a third jersey.
Yeah, like an alternate commemorative thing. Yeah.
Use every now and then at home, maybe on like a Saturday or Sunday afternoon game. That'd be perfect because that's when these teams usually use their third jersey is there or at home during like a special occasion, which is it brings a hint of Vegas there because they use like the gold chips as like a big thing. Like you had that video, I sent you one, which was like a more
it was a lot more
with like the chip game in the casino, all of that. And it brings it to it. Like it does look like the Predators one, but the Predator one was like a mustard yellow. This is like more like gold yellow, which is
and I guess the sparkle had to be put in there to make it look a little more on the gold side. We're just gonna. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
Just going to go on with some of the comments from our viewers. Oakley, thank you for joining us. Gold Bolts. Anonymous here says, let's talk about when we can start planning our parade. I'm not sure which our parade is. I'm assuming you may be a Leafs fan, and if which case, we got lots of time to plan that parade because unless this team improves drastically, we're just going to be talking about the same parade every year, which is the maybe next time, maybe next year float.
Maybe replay the Raptors parade.
Yeah. Alex Benison, boat parties, big fan of boat parties, I guess. Absolutely. I thought that was pretty cool what they did this year. It was interesting. It was different. Why not take advantage of the Florida atmosphere? Not every team can go back and celebrate.
I gotta ask my buddy about that because he lives in Tampa.
Oh yeah,
and I gotta see how close he was to the parade.
Yeah. We got Brendan Scott saying, "What up, guys? What up, Brandon?
Yep.
What's up from Joe?" And then some meaningless comment from our leader here.
I was waiting for it, like you went past that. I was like, are you just gonna not read that one?
Because it just wouldn't be a show without the mention of SYG, which is
didn't play in it. It just happens.
You guys are taking a hiatus this weekend, so we're not even going to discuss it because there's nothing to promote. Joe, thanks again. Working Fans Podcast tuning in, another fellow podcaster at All Everything Entertainment.
He's very good. I watched their video.
Yeah.
Right after my son's football game on Tuesday night. Very good. These guys know their shit. People need to listen into them when they get a chance.
Yeah, and if you guys are looking at where you can find out on what's going on, check this out. So, of course, all the social media channels you can reach us at. You can check our schedule on our website. And if you miss any of our shows, you can catch them in multiple different areas. Daniel here actually works really hard to make sure that all of our stuff is available on our SoundCloud, on YouTube. He's going to be, after this episode, working hard to also get our Twitch page going. We are currently streaming live on Twitch. We haven't just been promoting it much because we're still new to it. It's a work in progress. We definitely got to start somewhere. So a lot of people are probably wondering what happens now. The season's done. We have a little bit of a break between now and free agency opening up on Friday.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? So came up with something. We're going to introduce the head-to-head challenge between myself and Daniel. Basically, what we want is to hear from you guys, our viewers, our readers, our watchers, whatever you want to refer to yourself as, followers, subscribers. You tell us, what do you want to see? Obviously keeping hockey in mind. We'd like to do something along the lines of, targets, best shot, calling our shots, accuracy shooting. I confirmed with Daniel that he's got a hockey net. I've got it set up here as well. So if you guys want to see crossbar challenge or water bottle on top of the crossbar, see who hits it first, whatever the case may be, we're up for the challenge. So if you guys want to make this interesting, we want to hear from you. And as we progress throughout the weeks during the off season, we will definitely update you guys on how we're doing. I'm assuming Daniel's probably going to need a little more time than I will when it comes to anything hockey related. If it comes to accuracy and shooting. So I'll give him some time to get ahead and start practicing as soon as he can.
I'm good. YOLO.
So whatever you guys suggest might be a good thing for us to do. Feel free to comment. If you guys want to comment now, later, whenever you'd like, you can reach us on all of our social network platforms as well. And let us know what you want to do. Or what you want to see us do. Joe says classic player profile. So that's another thing we were looking at doing as well on rainy days or days where we just can't come up with something of a challenge. We can definitely look at looking back into the past. Some of our, you're a Flyers fan, I'm a Leafs fan. We can go obviously start off with our classic favorites of all time. And hey, we can talk about whatever, man. There's not much to talk about in Stanley Cup victories for the Leafs. I mean, all of them happened way before I was even a thought. So you could probably say the same about your Flyers. And
boys were in the 70s, so yeah.
Yep. So I mean, we can talk about some of the players we watched growing up. Maybe do a little draft between me and you as to who can put together the best team on the ice all time. We can do a straight anybody, any year, any era, whatever you want to do. Put together the best team you can think of. You're the Bagley All-Star team. Anything goes. So that'll be something we could do as well. If you're up for a challenge, we can try to figure out a way to incorporate some NHL video gaming into this. I know you're an Xbox guy. I'm a PlayStation guy, but I'm sure we can figure something out. Yeah, lots of things. We can try a bunch of different things. We're looking to the viewers to suggest things. And if you don't, I'm sure we'll come up with something when it comes to keeping you guys entertained and looking for more each week. Of course, as we go on, free agency opens up next Friday, but there's always stuff that happens after the fact. We also have the draft coming up just after, which will be interesting because there's still a lot of hearsay as to what's going to happen and who the projected top 5 are going to be in the draft. So lots still coming up, and then we'll kind of go into a slowdown, a dead phase, if you want to call it that. But yeah, it'll give me some time to build my outdoor rink. I'm hoping to build this year in the backyard. If things go as planned, and I will be sharing that process with you guys as well. Whether it happens or it doesn't, I will gladly show why it did or didn't.
Did you hear the news about ESPN? They're interested in bidding for the NHL's U.S. media rights when the league deal with NBC expires for following next season.
I did not hear about that, and I mean, it doesn't really affect much here in Canada because we typically have all of our games carried on either TSN, Sportsnet, or CBC. But it'll be interesting for the American networks because I know TV deals are huge over there when it comes to who gets the rights. I was just looking at if there's any talks about All-Star games, and right now it's showing the 2021 All-Star game scheduled for January 30th in Florida. Now, There hasn't been any talk about it being canceled yet, but I would assume it is most likely going to be postponed, if not canceled entirely. Again, Florida, of all places, is probably not the best place. They're guaranteed not going to be a bubble city. So if they go ahead with an all-star game, I imagine it would be within one of the bubbles, and I don't know how they're going to make it entertaining in any way.
Yeah.
Even outdoor games, I don't know if those are going to happen this year. Is there going to be a Winter Classic? Probably not. So I'm not sure. Like, I don't know what the approach is going to be with making this year a good one. I mean, hockey fans are hockey fans. We'll watch. I'll definitely watch, regardless of how they do it. What they just did now was playoffs. Like, we're talking now, they have to figure out a way to accommodate for 82 games if they go a full season, which Gary Bettman says that's his plan, for 31 teams. And it's I think it's going to be a lot more of a logistics nightmare when it comes to how they're going to plan this. Have you heard any details or anything along those lines for that?
Well, before I get to that, they do have a Winter Classic scheduled right now. It was never put off, which is in Minnesota, between the Wild and the Blues, and they're supposed to play at Target Field in Minneapolis. So, with how the Winter Classic goes, they could still do it, and maybe have, like, depending on how fans are, either do it with no fans and just broadcast it on TV, or they can have select fans because of how the stadium is. Because the fans aren't near the ice as it is. They're just in the stands.
Yeah.
So I still see them doing the game because they can still profit off of it if they broadcast it on ESPN on New Year's, like they always do, or NBC, whichever network broadcast it. But they will definitely run that with how the ice is away from the fans, or just get rid of the fans altogether. That way you don't have to worry about all that. But I think that's definitely going to happen 95%. They're not going to get rid of that because you're going to play no matter what.
So the thing is, those games generate a lot of money and revenue. Now, I don't know that they're going to do the same. Like, I don't know if there's going to be any restrictions put in place in the U.S. Like, for example, here, things are kind of scaling back. So now they're going back to, limited size gatherings, masks in any indoor facilities, small gatherings with no more than 100 people. So, I think wrestling right now is doing something similar where they have like little pockets of people, and football is doing the same thing where they've got pockets of people scattered throughout the stadium. It'll be interesting to see if this is going to be a rich man's lottery to see how you even get into that, or if it's going to be completely random. I envision it's going to be season ticket holders are going to have first dibs, as they're the loyal money spenders per se for their teams, right? Mm-hmm. So just reading a quick article here on ESPN, they're saying their aim is 100% to go with an 82-game schedule. Originally, it showed the tentative agreement on a December 1st start date with training camps beginning November 17th. I think that's crazy. That's too soon. And he's already announced that he's not going to be surprised if it pushes to January, which kind of makes sense. It gives things a little more time to cool down, and it also allows them to try to plan a little better rather than rush and turn it into a disaster. As a result, now the suggestion is they may not be able to play the full 82 games. So one NHL executive told ESPN he anticipates it's going to be a 60 to 65 game season beginning in mid to late January. Another executive suggested he believes 70 games would be the baseline for next season, because that's a number typically used as a minimum for regional TV contracts. Although, again, that number is not set in stone by any means. Just skimming through this real quick. It's looking like a lot of the guys say they think it'll be between 68 and 75. I don't know where they got that number from. games played, but nobody seems to think that they're going to fit 82 games into the schedule. And I know that was something Gary Bettman was really adamant on wanting to do. Now, the other issue is also how injuries are going to be handled when it comes to your farm team, your AHL affiliates. Yeah. So I feel like whatever the NHL does, the AHL kind of has no choice but to mimic their same thing. But now where do you put all those guys? I mean, you're going to have bubble cities forming for the AHL. The AHL doesn't have anywhere near the same funding as the NHL does. So I'm not sure how that's going to work because you can't have guys sitting cold at home getting called up to cover injuries. And it's going to happen. These guys are going to get burnt out. There's going to be, whether it be intentional replacements or I'm going to use the term load management to kind of give some of these older players a bit of a break from playing that many games in a short period of time. So yeah, that's the biggest thing that I don't know how they're going to handle, and they haven't really given any sort of hints. And the other obvious things is they're more than likely going to start with no fans in the stands and then slowly try to add them throughout as they progress and see what happens, I guess. I think they're optimistic in thinking they're going to fill the arenas. I could see maybe 25%, maybe 50%, depending in some areas. But again, it'll come down to how are these tickets going to be sold? It's going to cause uproar because sure as hell they can't just up prices of seats to compensate for the lost ticket sales from filling an arena. So I think at the end of the day, for the next maybe 2-3 seasons, ownerships and teams are going to take a hefty blow on any income generated from ticket sales. It just makes sense. And the thought of bubble cities, again, is obviously something being talked about. They want to try to expand it to have multiple cities available, with obvious health and safety being their number one concern. They had a really good run when it came to testing and results and players, so hopefully that stays that way. So what do you think is going to happen with the whole AHL, NHL, players, scheduling, fans?
I think it's going to be just like you said. I think they're going to try to do the hub cities. They should be able to get like a few games in each week for the hub cities because they're not going anywhere, so you don't have to worry about the travel. And then the only problem will be the AHL. But maybe if they pick like a couple hub cities in the AHL where they can do that and ask the NHL for help because the NHL has a lot of money. And then use that to do that because I know a team like Seattle, they're spreading their AHL roster to a couple teams. So they're not going to just not use the AHL and have all those players just sit there because that's not good for the franchises. So I think somewhere along the line that the franchises are going to do everything that they need to do to get everything up and running.
Yep, probably. I mean, you're right. They might have to ask the NHL for financial assistance, and I feel like the NHL would have to pony up somewhere to allow for that to happen. And I think if they don't do that, they are risking a lot, and not only the potential injuries, but also the development in these younger players and allowing them to transition into NHL opportunities for anybody who's not, your top 10 draft pick type of thing, to be able to use these guys in the system. And it's a financial mess if you think about it, because even with salaries and who gets paid what, if there's no AHL, I feel like no matter how they twist it, there's going to have to be some way to incorporate the AHL into the whole season. And oddly enough, so I didn't think this was going to be available. I just searched it and I found it. The odds of the 2021 Stanley Cup have already been posted. And it's crazy because one site I saw earlier suggested Colorado's got the best odds of winning the cup. But per Vegas Insider, they've got Tampa Bay, Colorado, and Vegas all with 7-1 odds of winning the Stanley Cup this coming season. The Bruins are 12-1. Your Flyers are next at 16-1, tied with Washington. And then the Leafs are up there with 20-1 odds of winning the Cup. I laugh because if they improve the team, hopefully it'll be something. But for anybody looking to make a quick future bet, why not throw something down on the Detroit Red Wings, who are 200-1 favorites to win the Cup? Throw a few dollars down on that. You never know what's going to happen.
Not to change the subject, but to something of that range. Last night you had that dumpster fire Thursday night football game, and my buddy put $500 down that Sam Darnold would be the first to score a touchdown on a run, which paid out like I think 4,000. I think it was plus 4,000, and he wound up winning like $32,000.
Wow!
Yeah. Just by picking that, the first touchdown would be a Sam Darnold run.
Talk about horseshoes, man. And that's when you start to question the topic of, is our sports fixed? Does Vegas have an influence on certain outcomes? And when it comes to that, I think football is probably the biggest bet on sport in the U.S. I'm not sure about Canada and where they sit here, but I feel like from a sports betting perspective, probably the NFL would probably be the biggest, if not maybe close to, because I know NCAA is pretty big down there too, right?
It is big time.
And just looking at some of these other odds too, like Tampa Bay's favored to win the East again, 7-2 odds. Boston 6-1, Philly 8-1. So it looks like they're looking at similar outcomes for next season when it comes to rankings. Like they've got Colorado winning the West. Actually, they've got them tied with Vegas. I'm not sure how good Vegas is going to be this coming season. Because, I mean, if they're losing Marc-Andre Fleury, if he does end up leaving, and Robin Leonard, let's say, doesn't play, lights out, and because he looked a little bit shaky in the last few games of the playoffs for them, then what? I mean, you need a goalie. It's been proven that you need a goalie to steal you games. So what do they do?
Yeah, they could always bring back Thatcher Demko.
It's an option.
Yeah.
Quite an option, especially since he may very well be available. Like I guess their odds based on, obviously they're based on current as the teams sit right now. Obviously with trades, odds change. So I think after, I would say up to 2 weeks after the free agency market opens up, I think a lot of these odds might change depending on who ends up where, but I can imagine a lot of teams are going to look to better themselves. I don't know that Tampa Bay can repeat. I don't think they can.
Salary cap rise, it might be hard because they got stuff coming up where they got a couple of Asian guys maybe retiring soon, and then they have guys that are going to want to get paid more than they are. Like they got their core guys that they don't have to worry about, and Kucherov and Vasilevsky, they're set for the next 7-8 years. It's the backbone of the team behind that they got to worry about, because they traded for a couple of pieces that were not initially on the team. So now it's like all this Vegas betting right now, it's just on what happened last year, because until free agency happens, they're just going to go with the teams that they know look good on paper right now. They're not going to be like, oh, this is this year's Vancouver Canucks team that came out of nowhere and went to the second round of the playoffs. You won't know that until free agency is done with.
Yeah, makes sense. So I was just looking up some interesting things we can talk about here. Some interesting facts about the NHL that not too many people may know or may be aware of. And these, I'm going to share these because these are pretty awesome. I didn't know this either. So in 91-92, when San Jose was awarded their expansion team, the final names that the team would have potentially been named were the Screaming Squids, the Salty Dogs, the Blades, and the Rubber Puckies. The Rubber Puckies, that somehow made it into their potential naming of the teams. So
if I could ever see the outline of that logo.
Yeah, I'm shocked. That's what happens when you let fans decide your names, I think. I don't know. So another interesting one, the Toronto Maple Leafs once threw the Stanley Cup into a fire in 1962 after defeating the Chicago Blackhawks. I wonder if they jinxed themselves because they only won it in 67 a few years after that. But between 62 and 67, they won it a couple times too. But that's crazy. And the team had to come up with the cash to make the repairs and probably took some heat. I'd love to know the details to that. I'm assuming a lot of alcohol was involved in that somehow happening. Pittsburgh used to apparently have a real-life penguin as the team mascot in 1968. And its name was Pete.
Pete the Penguin.
Pete the Penguin. And he was introduced for the very first time in 1968 in a game against the Philadelphia Flyers. It was a Ecuadorian-born penguin on loan from the Pittsburgh Zoo. Wow. Here's one that is interesting, and I've always wondered how he's still there. Gary Bettman is the first commissioner of the NHL, and he has held that since. He was voted in 1993 and has not been pushed out. I know a lot of fans don't like the guy, and he gets booed a lot. I think this might have been the first time he's ever awarded a cup without being booed. So he must have liked having an empty stadium. But he has been the commissioner since 93. I don't even know how you get rid of him. Like, how does that even happen? Do they run? Does he have to be the one to say, okay, who wants to run against me? I've never heard of an election.
He's been bonehead sometimes, but then he's also done some good things for the league. So
yeah, and I think the owners like him because I think he's always looking after putting money in their pockets.
Yeah. Which we're always back that. So.
Yep. Another interesting fact, Mark Messier has taken the Stanley Cup to a strip club not once, but twice. Interesting. After the Oilers won the Cup in 87, he brought it to see some performers. And in 94, in New York, he brought it over to a gentleman's club in Manhattan called Scores, where apparently the Stanley Cup was exposed to some very inappropriate behaviors. Man, I'd love to see pictures of that if anyone's got those.
I found this cool picture. If you follow on Twitter the NHL, it's after the Lightning won the Stanley Cup. The one player, I forget his first name, but the last name is Coleman.
Blake Coleman.
Yes, he had a baby.
Yep.
And they took a picture of him, his wife, and they put the baby in the Stanley Cup.
The baby in the bowl of the cup, yep.
Yeah. And the caption is Minnie Coleman in the Stanley Cup. That is all. And
yep.
It was a smiley face.
Yeah, we'll start to see a lot of those pretty cool family shared photos of what players are doing with the cup. What else is showing here?
I will say that this must have been like a very good like postseason, like begin to end for Victor Hedman, considering the first game that he had. he got hurt and left the game. Well, it was the last one of the round robin against the Flyers. He got hurt in that game, and then to come back and lead the team in points, I believe, and then they get the Conn Smythe trophy for being MVP. To start the way he did and then end the way he did must have been must have taken a little toll on him, but was definitely worth it for a guy like that who's battled with I wouldn't say demons, but just mixed emotions about playing since when he first came in. That he didn't think he was going to be this well, and then get a new coach in who had his back, and then told him to just keep playing the way he did and build his confidence up, because his confidence wasn't at an all-time high when he came up. So it's nice to see that he was able to win and then succeed after starting off bad.
Speaking of that, I'm not sure he deserved to be classified playoff MVP.
Who would you put as MVP, though?
I would have given that hands down to Braden Point. Braden Point had a remarkable playoffs. The entire tournament, scored some of their most pivotal goals, and he showed up to play every single game. There wasn't a single game that Tampa played where people were like, "Hey, where's Braden Point?" I feel like he got ripped off. I feel like he should have won that, hands down. I honestly think that should have been his award to take home.
You could also say that maybe Kucherov was robbed.
Yeah, but I still think Braden Point was the bigger key factor for that team.
Yeah,
I think Vasilevsky could have very easily competed for that too, because he kept them alive, especially in that last game. He made some huge saves.
Because I'm actually looking at it right now. Braden Point had 14 goals and 19 assists, so he had 33. Kucherov only had 7 goals, but he had 27 assists. And then he had 1 more point. And then, where is it?
Where's Hedman?
That's what I'm looking at right now. Oh, I'm looking at a list, and it's for forwards. So, defenseman. Victor Hedman had 10 goals and 12 assists.
Yeah, so if we're looking at numbers, I mean, Braden Point. I think all around, Braden Point played a way better playoffs. But, again, you can argue that odds were stacked against Hedman, and he still was able to perform the way he did. I can see that. But if you're basing it on a team MVP or a playoff MVP, I would say Braden Point should have got that award.
We just give this Steven Stamkos just because he had that 1 goal in 2 minutes.
Did 1 goal and then came out on the ice, fully dressed in equipment, walking the playoff beard. So just going to some of these things, did you know that Seattle has already been awarded an expansion team and it flopped because they couldn't meet the financial deadlines in 1975?
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I didn't know that. The Seattle Totems in 75, they couldn't meet the deadline, so they folded before they could ever actually become an NHL.
Maybe that's why they didn't go with the Seattle Aztecs, because it was too close to that, and they were probably afraid. Yeah, too close.
This is one of the ones that a trivial question that I've always heard of, never really thought there was much truth to it, but apparently there was after doing several bits of research on it. The Toronto Maple Leafs and the Edmonton Oilers almost traded entire teams for one another in 1980, which would have found Wayne Gretzky being in Toronto in his prime. And it was basically the owner of the Leafs at the time, Harold Ballard, who is like the curse of Toronto, was facing financial challenges. So he made the proposal to Peter Pocklington in Edmonton to just trade teams. The idea was for the Leafs to move into Edmonton's new arena, and the Oilers would set up shop at Maple Leaf Gardens and play in Toronto. And according to Peter Pocklington in Edmonton, Harold Ballard also wanted $50 million in the deal. And surprisingly, Pocklington was on board. He was pretty excited to make the deal happen. But at the end, it was Harold Ballard who backed out, saying that he didn't want to drop the papers, and that was it. So he made this proposal, got the guy on board, and then backed out. I'm so confused by that.
How would you have felt having Wayne Gretzky on your team?
Probably would have been great because I would have been one in my lifetime. I would have seen a Stanley Cup. Well, somebody would have seen a Stanley Cup victory, and I would have been alive to say I was alive. But just knowing that my favorite player could have been a Maple Leaf in his prime is something. But again, it doesn't shock me. Harold Ballard was, if you ask any hardcore Leafs fan, nobody will ever have anything good to say about Harold Ballard. Another interesting fact, there's a ton of spelling mistakes in the Stanley Cup, apparently, including the most bizarre one on the 1945 Stanley Cup ring. Leafs assistant manager Frank Selke, his title, they had to shorten it, is Assman. So somebody thought that putting Assman would be okay. So he is the Assman on that Stanley Cup ring.
I don't even know where to get started on that one.
Yeah. Another one, when this article was written, the injured goalies rule. What happens if both goalies are hurt or fall ill? Well, we saw that happen this year, and I'm not happy that it happened against the Leafs. And suffice to say, it happened against Toronto. Storybook ending. Zamboni driver comes in for Carolina, ends up holding on to the win, beats the Leafs, which is a team that he actually trained with as the emergency backup keeper, and now has also scored a movie. So they're making a movie out of this whole story, which is going to be a bitter reminder to Toronto. And I mean, it could have gone both ways. If the Leafs would have won that game, everybody would have said, "Oh, of course they won the game. It was their own in-house goalie." So them losing it, I mean, it wasn't a make or break game for them. So it was a great story. I just hate that it happened against the Leafs. And it takes away from that accountant in Chicago. I thought his story was way better because he was an accountant. He didn't even have he didn't even have the on-ice training that this guy had in Toronto. And another interesting fact, did you know that only one NHL player has ever worn the number 0 on his jersey? And that was Neil Sheehy of the Hartford Whalers. In 87-88, wore the number 0.
Nice.
And then outside of that, the number 1 rarest fact was, did you know that I don't know if this still stands today, if the officials are unable to call a game, if something were to happen where for some reason all the refs are incapable of calling a game, the players have to do it themselves. It is in the rules. They shall appoint a player from each side who shall act as a referee and a linesman. The player of the home club acting as a referee and the player of the visiting club would be the linesman. Can you imagine? What a shit show. But I believe now the NHL actually has backup referees at every game that are there just in case something happens. They're like the fifth official type of thing that just is on the sidelines in case something happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are some interesting facts I did not know.
Me either. That's pretty cool. And then I've driven through Hartford, and I'm still surprised that they had a franchise that long because it's not a big city. It's kind of small. So
and it was one of the coolest, most unique jersey designs too. The W with the white tail, like it was cool, and I liked it. I like the colors, just like the Minnesota North Stars. Like I've always been a fan of the North Stars jersey. It's a really bright green and yellow, but it looked pretty cool.
And my son for hockey last year, his team was the North Stars, which was cool.
Oh yeah,
yeah. He
Right
still has
on.
the jersey. He still has the jersey and everything. It's very cool.
Yeah, it's a nice one.
Yeah.
So we're getting to that point of wrapping up the night, and I want to call it the season with the whole Stanley Cup being awarded to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Again, congratulations to them. We'll go through the shows coming up this week. Stand Your Ground is on hiatus this week. I know there's some big stuff happening in European football, especially when it comes to Champions League and
they just announced the group stages for it.
stage games. So I'm sure you guys will have a very busy upcoming episode the following week.
I'm already started working on it now. I'm going to incorporate some of that into it, and then of course talk about a little bit of the. With us not going on this Sunday, it'll give us a little bit more games to talk over with next Sunday, with 2 weeks worth of games.
Yep. And in addition, for anybody who follows All Everything Entertainment, on Sunday morning, we'll have a second installment of a new podcast called Blitz, featuring Josh DeBoard, our resident podcast guru, alongside Drew Tremmel, who is the podcast specialist, if you want to call it, of Game Winning Drive, all things football. The guy knows his stuff. Him and Josh make an awesome team together on the air. They break down pretty much everything you need to know for football upcoming within the week. We also have the new wrestling show coming up as well. Actually, not just wrestling. It's going to be an interesting combination of wrestling meets football, and that's going to be called End Zone Wrestling. So that'll be featuring our own President Tim. We'll be going on the air along with Anthony DeSalvatore to break down both sports.
And then don't forget, Sunday night we got the NXT TakeOver watch along.
Is that where you guys finally end this debate of who wins what and whose head's getting shaved and who's going where?
Well, I don't know if everybody tuned in, but it's me and Alex stand your ground against RSH, which is Chuck and Josh. We made our picks on Thursday, and it came out that we all have the same picks. It's a deadlock tie right now, so we're trying to figure out a tiebreaker right now, because you can't just leave this off on a tie.
Hey, maybe you guys can make the tiebreaker be one of those things. Does it end on pinfall or submission?
That's a good one.
That could be a good one. Is there going to be any disqualifications? Something to kind of throw things for a twist.
Yeah, but
that's Sunday as well.
We're working on that, so hopefully we'll have a solution by Sunday night. But tune into the watch along. It'll be during the takeover. We'll probably start the watch along a little bit before, like 20-30 minutes before it comes on, and then it'll go throughout the whole pay-per-view. Josh and Chuck, and then I'm not sure if I'm supposed to pop on a little bit during it. I'm not sure about Alex or not.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm sure other people will pop on, but take a look at it and watch Stand Your Ground win, because that's what we do. We win, they lose. My band's going to be lifted, and then Alex is going to get his title shot against Chuck. It's inevitable. He can't run away from it. He has no excuses. He can't finish on another tie now. He's going to lose. So tune in Sunday.
So that's Sunday. Also Sunday, we've got Whiskey Cinema with the boys, and that's at 8 o'clock. We've got Monday, the start of, I believe, End Zone Wrestling starts Monday.
And so yep. And then
for Monday, we also have that Retro Wrestling show on Monday as well.
They started last week. It was a really good show. They did the top 10 singles wrestlers of all time. It was David M.D. Chandler, and he had Tyler Peters on, and then Zash. He's an Australian, and they all talked about it. They are knowledgeable with it. tune in every Monday, I believe, at 10 o'clock, I believe. Usually they go on. Yeah, I think it was 10.
Yeah, so that's another show for the wrestling fans. Then, of course, your regular The Boardroom on Tuesdays with Josh. Game Winning Drive also goes on. Is that Game Winning Drive? I can't remember if that's Tuesday or Wednesday night.
It's Wednesday.
It got switched to Wednesday, yeah.
Yes.
For anybody else who follows wrestling, Wednesday Night War just had their final show this past Wednesday. If you didn't catch that one, be sure to tune in. There was a lot of singing, tears, emotions were high. But for anybody who's looking for Anthony, again, tune in Monday. He'll be on that show with Tim. Then you got RSH picking things up back again on Thursday, followed by a special on Friday in the afternoon. For anybody looking for something new and unique, this is a big announcement here for us. Friday at noon, I'll play a little promo video for you guys right now. So that's this coming Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Your co-host, Alex Benison of Stand Your Ground, is going one-on-one with the legendary World's Most Dangerous Man, Ken Shamrock. I'm excited for this. I watched my very first UFC pay-per-view thanks to Ken Shamrock. Like, that was the guy I watched first. So I'm excited to see this. I watched him in wrestling when he went over to, I believe it was WWF at the time when he started with them. And the guy's ripped. Like, that picture at the end of that promo video is his current state. He is still ripped. So that's happening this coming Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern. If you can't make it live, you'll definitely be able to catch the recording of it throughout the day, anytime you want, really, on our social media channels. I'm excited for that, man.
Yeah,
It's a
so
good one.
am I.
A big one.
It's a big get, and then I told you guys earlier, but I wanted to break the news on here that I just secured a interview. It's either going to be next Monday or next Wednesday with Thunder Rosa, the NWA Women's Champion.
So you've got that finalized. That's done deal.
Just got to get a time on. That's it. But it's either next Monday or next Wednesday, whichever is better for her. But I got that booked right now, which I'm excited about. For all these wrestling guys that we got on the staff to have the two football guys get these interviews is, and all I'm going to say is
that sounds like a knock for anybody watching. Josh, Chuck, Anthony. That sounds like another challenge to me, but yeah. Your stand your ground guys are standing on everybody's ground right now, as they have both booked solid interviews for the upcoming week. Of course, Between the Pipes returns next Friday. Hopefully we'll have some entertaining stuff. Free agency opens up next Friday, so we'll have a lot to talk about, I'm sure. Hopefully some big news, hopefully a reason for me to wear my Leafs jersey and maybe start planning who I get next on the back. Or it may just be another one of those Leafs stand pat, they do nothing, and we play the waiting game. So We've got a jam-packed week of sports coming at you, movies, anything you want. We've got it all. Check out our other podcasts. Again, we're working on a new podcast promo to outline a lot of our materials and a lot of our shows. If you're looking for where to find all that stuff, again, I remind you, you can find it all here. So that does it for us. We wrap things up with you guys again another week. Thank you again to all the followers and viewers. Keep it up. We got lots of hockey coming soon around the corner. And in the meantime, like I said, feel free to check out our site and look at all the other options of stuff you can enjoy. We've always got articles being written, some great work by some fantastic writers for our team. So again, thank you for all the support. Keep it up and make sure you're there to watch all these shows. And again, this coming Friday.
Yep.
There you have it. Be there. Don't miss it. Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern. Brought to you by live by All Everything Entertainment. One-on-one exclusive interview with our very own Alex Benison. So with that said, thank you all. Archie, Bakley, and we'll see you guys next week.